Hi.
Hi, Jacqueline!
And Sasha.
And Sasha, sorry. Welcome to Anatomy and Physiology. Some might say this is the most feared class on campus. Fear not, you'll be fine. But I think there are a couple things that I'd like to do first, since today is the first day of class. So in front of you, there's a copy of a book you're going to read in the fall. It's called STIF, The Curious Lives of Human Cadavers. It talks about research that is done with cadavers and things that, different aspects of what happens to the body post-mortem, right? So you're going to read the book. You are going to have deadlines for every chapter. If I'm not crazy, there are 13 of them. Let's take a look. Sorry, Jacqueline and Sasha. I don't remember if it's 13 or 12 chapters. 12 chapters, so that's about a chapter a week. And then you're going to send me a one-page review or a summary of that chapter, right? And then you're going to write a paper on a topic. When you finish the book, you will pick a topic on whatever that interests you in the book, and you're going to write down a paper, right? I don't like putting length on papers, but since it is a little bit of an opinion paper, right? I call it an opinion paper. So you're going to take an issue, you're going to state the issue, and then give your opinion, right? I believe this should happen, and then have maybe 3 or 4 references to support what you're saying, right? This is what I think should be done and why. This is what other people have said before. And then in the spring, you will do a research paper, right, on a topic that is of interest to you. Maybe by then we'll have some knowledge in this class that is enough that you can then pick Sunday, right? This year's class is going to be a little different than it's been in the past, just because with scheduling, we're going to have to make some adjustments. I will miss a few classes because we're Wednesday, Friday, and obviously in the spring, Friday pretty much is busy for me. But we'll definitely take care of everything that we need to, right? But it will require you guys to communicate with me a little better. Heather is going to help us. But one of my goals is to have you guys do a lot of hands-on stuff. So, kind of trying to connect anatomy and physiology with you being an athlete, right? So that you can use that knowledge to maybe make better choices with your body and your training and your nutrition, your rest and recovery based on the knowledge that you learn. With me so far? Okay, good. So I downloaded or uploaded to Teacher Ease the syllabus, the class outline, and the first chapter of my notes, right? So you should have seen that. The way it works is basically you have this book, right? And in this book you have chapters, right? So what you're going to do is before we start a new chapter. So today we're starting chapter 1. Today's the first day of class. Since we haven't had the discussion, you're not being held responsible for it yet, right? But when we finish a chapter before class, the next class, when we start a new chapter, you're going to read the chapter. They're pretty short and easy. Most of the chapters are like maybe 10 pages long, I think. They're very concise. Some are a little longer than others. But you're going to read and make a summary of that chapter, right? So there will be a lot of writing, a lot of reading for you. This is anatomy and physiology, but reading is almost like it's a mandatory thing. But you're going to read the chapter, and you're going to do a summary. That summary is for you. what you're going to do, you have unlimited choices on how to get it to me. You can email me a copy of it. If you're going to type it into your computer, you can save it and send a copy. That's fine. If you're going to handwrite it, you can take a picture and send it to me, right? If you can think of any other way that you want to do this, works for me as long as I get it before class starts, right? And then I will post my notes on Teacher Ease before the chapter begins, so you can have access to that as well, right? And then most of the time in class, we're going to spend talking about some of those things, and you can come up with questions before we start. Yes?
So when the chapters in this book, you want a page of like notes or a summary of the chapter?
You do that? Yes. And it doesn't have to be a page. If you want to write 5 pages of it, that's fine. Right? But what I would say is when you read it, what are the things that you feel like are important? Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So that, and the reason to do that is very simple. You read the book, you write your own notes, you read my notes, and then we come to class and take more notes. Now you got everything that you need for the exam, right? The other thing that I will point out too is that in the end of every chapter, there are review questions, right? Fill in the blank, multiple choice, true, false, right? 60% of your exam comes from those. So when we finish the first unit, I will sit down and we'll look at some of those questions, and I'll just pick the ones that I like more. Maybe the ones that I feel like are more applied to what I'm trying to accomplish in the class. So if you do those, right, and you can answer them correctly, there is no way you're failing this class. It's impossible. You might not get an A, but you will pass the class, right? Then the second half of the exam usually are short answers. So I ask a question that you should be able to answer in 1 or 2 paragraphs tops. Maybe 1 paragraph, right? And then there are essay questions that are a little more, develop your thoughts. It might take, 2 or 3 or 4 paragraphs. Yes? The first 3 chapters will be the first test, and then after that, every 2 chapters will have a test, right? So it kind of goes pretty quick. Usually you will get about 6 or 7 tests over the course of the year, plus the final, plus the paper, plus the research paper, plus your presentation, and then quizzes. So in the end of every chapter, you may get a quiz. You will get a quiz. So you have plenty of opportunities to show your knowledge in class, right? I always hated, when I was in college, always hated the classes that had 1 test, 1 midterm, and then the final. You have a bad day, you screw up in one of them, and you're basically done for the semester with your grade. You had no chance of making a recovery. Does that make sense? So I want to give you guys plenty of opportunities for that. Another thing that I'm going to add is that I take pride in responsibility for my teaching, right? So if I do a bad job teaching a part of the chapter or a part of the subject, and everybody does badly on it, you don't get penalized for it, right? So usually what I do is in the end, after the exam, the highest grade becomes 100%, right? So I curve in that way. So if the highest grade is 88, right, then you have a percentage point curve on it. So basically, let's say the highest grade is 88 out of 100, right? So 88 becomes 100%, right? And then your grade will be some type of percentage. All right, so let's say if you got a 78 in the exam, right? You know how to do this mathematically, right? So you go 88x equals 7,800. X equals 7,800 divided by 88. I should give you a number. It's probably gonna be like 92 maybe. So you get a 92 on the test. Maybe that's too high. Maybe an 88.
Yeah.
I like that for two reasons. Three reasons, but two main reasons. Number one is it creates a little competition in class. You guys being around, you heard the talks, right? I'm gonna get the highest grade in the test. So it creates a little competition. We're athletes. We like that. You should like that, right? Two, again, like I said, I feel like if I do a bad job teaching you, you don't get penalized for that, right? But the third one, kind of like a side note, is, it discourages you from letting someone cheat from you or give the answers. So we kind of take care of that too, right? Or it discourages you from copying somebody's answer. You don't know if they got it right or not. But anyway, non-concern for me, but usually is a little side note there. Do you guys have any questions about what I said so far? Yes?
Quiz after every chapter.
Yeah, but usually it's like a 5-minute thing.
Oh.
Like an example of a quiz that I've done in the past is, name all 11 organelles of a cell. And if you study and you know it, it takes 45 seconds to write 11 words. So it's, sometimes it may be a little, You don't have to know that right now. It's okay.
Oh, I can get through a couple of these.
No, yeah, hopefully, because you've had biology.
Yeah.
So, now, communication, the thing that I'd like to do is create a in-class group text. I know you guys don't have your cell phones during school day, but that's okay. Because most of the times when I send you a message, it's not gonna be like, hey, I'll be there 5 minutes late. It'll be, don't forget next Tuesday we have, right? But the easiest way to get in touch with me probably is texting, because that will be the fastest for me, right? But that way I can communicate with you guys. Does anybody not have my cell phone number?
I'm gonna write it down.
512. Does this go like live online? Can anyone access this video, or is this gonna be like a closed?
I just thought about that.
Huh?
Should
I
probably-
think it's
Yeah, it's fine. 512-745-6075. Send me a text in the end of the day today. So obviously I have most of you, but if I don't, then I'll just put your name on it so I know. Trying to think. Oh, first assignment. You don't have to do that today or anytime soon, but before class on Wednesday. I want you to think about a question that you have about your training. Anything you'd like to know about training at ATA. It can be, obviously it has to be somewhat related to anatomy and physiology, right? So asking why we hit crosswords would not be very applicable, but if you have questions about your training in terms of, why do we run, or why do we do this, or why don't we do this, how important is whatever, right? Now you come and you train every day. I'm assuming from time to time you're doing something with Dio or Josh or one of your coaches, and you're like, I don't understand why we're doing this. Right? So I want you to write down a question, and we're going to try to answer that question this year at some point. I'm not saying we're going to answer all those questions in the same day, but as we go through the year, my goal is to make sure that I'm answering all those questions. Does that make sense? So again, you just take some time, be reflective, think about something that bothers you when the coaches do to you and you're like, why? Why are we doing this? That's your question, so we can answer. Maybe we'll help you be more motivated to do that, or maybe it will help you to have an intelligent conversation with because you know what, maybe we should not do this because this is all the things that I learned. Yes? Good. Good. So, who's got a chance to go over chapter 1 in my notes? Anyone? No? Okay, good. Let me get it even better. But you're gonna do that for next class, right?
Yes.
Yes.
So
Of course.
do we need like a folder in this class, or mostly we're going to be taking notes?
I think the best would be to have something like that,
Okay.
because after chapter 2 or 3, we're gonna be doing a lot of drawing.
Okay.
I do a lot of drawing and I explain it because you already have the notes that you read, right? So I try to do a lot of drawing and things like that. But from time to time, we will write stuff down. So, you know. And I also think if you write it down, part of your preparation for the test could be to add your notes to your summary of the chapters, right? Right? So when I send the copy, like my notes for each chapter, right? I usually do in Word format, so you can go in and write on it. Is that going to be a problem with anybody? You Mac people? No, Word is okay.
All good.
Okay, good. All right, well, then with that in mind, why don't we get started?
So
Chapter 1 is always fun.
you said Word document?
Yeah, like I just,
You could still open it on Mac, right?
Yes.
Okay.
You have.
did you get my phone number? You did? Okay. Might as well have fun, you know? All right, so, and I got, look, this year is going to be so much fun. I have 2 boards. I can write all,
Or you can go.
and then I can go all the way here and not have to stop. So much fun. But, can you see that?
Yeah.
Yeah, good. Matthew? Good. All right, so chapter 1 is titled, right? Introduction to Anatomy and Physiology. What do you know about anatomy and physiology? Apparently not much.
It's the study of human body and how it looks.
Okay. It is the study of the human body, if it is human anatomy, which this class is, by the way, right? Where you will focus on the human body. So we'll say anatomy and physiology is the study of the human body. But there are classes called comparative anatomy, right? So you compare the anatomy of different species, different animals, what they have in common, what they have different, right? But anatomy, the word anatomy, right, represents structure, right? When we talk anatomy, we're talking about, in most cases, things that you can see, things that you can touch, right? So bones, when we name the bones, that's anatomy. When we name the muscles, right, the skin, talk about the skin as a system, right, as a different type of tissue, we're talking about anatomy. When we talk about physiology, we're going a little deeper and going a little more molecular, cellular, and talking about processes, right? how the body actually works. So when we talk about muscle contraction, how does the muscle cell actually change in shape, form, and size to cause the body to move? That's physiology, right? When we talk about how things are carried in the blood and delivered to the systems that are needed, right? Oxygen, nutrients, how the body expels CO2 and byproducts of physiological processes, right? That's more of a physiology. With me? Good. So the first thing that we have to talk about is there are levels of structure inside the body, right? And you can think of it kind of like a pyramid of things being built, right? And you can do this in two different ways. You can go small to large, or you can go large to small. Any preference?
Small.
Small to large, okay. So what is the absolute smallest thing you can think of in the universe?
Quartz or atoms?
Atoms, right? Everything is made of atoms. Why is atom considered the smallest thing we can do or we can come up with? Because we know inside the atoms we have electrons, protons, and neutrons, don't we? So wouldn't those be smaller than that? Right, but atom also means indivisible. Because the moment you split an electron from a proton, it no longer has the capacity to act in a specific way. Right, so an atom in itself is a tiny little thing that has some properties that are very unique to that one atom. Right, so for example, hydrogen. What do we know about hydrogen?
One proton.
It has one proton and one
Electron.
electron. So it's neutral. Protons are positive, right? Electrons are negative. Neutrons are no charge. Now, if we're talking about oxygen, right? Look at that. We have a periodic table right overhead. I don't even have to ask anymore because I don't remember. Right? But oxygen has how many protons?
8.
8. How many electrons?
8.
8 electrons. So still protons, electrons, neutral, but because they have different number of it, they behave in a different way. Right? When we get to chapter 2, we're going to talk about the ability that those atoms have to actually combine with each other to perform chemical reactions. But don't get ahead of me. And don't fall asleep. Okay, I'm just making sure. Okay, so 2 or more atoms interacting together would create a molecule. Right? And they are held together by chemical bonds. Very good. What happens if you combine 2 or more molecules together?
Cell.
Get
a compound.
You get a compound, yes. But remember, this is a anatomy class. So we're going to call this an organelle. Right? You have atoms combine form molecules, you put a couple molecules together and all of a sudden you start creating an organelle. Right? And a group of organelles working together in a enclosed space would form cell. Very good. Right? So for this class, A cell is considered the fundamental unit of living things. What does it mean?
We're all made up of, everything's made up of.
For something to be considered living, it has to have cells.
Okay, good. I like where you're going. I like where you're going. Anybody else? So atoms are considered the fundamental unit of things, of matter. For the simple reason that we just talked about, if you break an atom down, it loses its properties. It doesn't behave that way, right? Your body is formed by trillions of cells, right? And why is it important? Because those cells create organizations within the body, right? They're specialized and allow you to do things. If cells were broken down, if we were to break down a cell, we would just be a bunch of organelles floating around, right? So a cell creates that organization that allows the body to perform all the different things that the body performs. Right? Because we have different types of cells. Your skin cells are different than your muscle cells, which are different than your fat cells, which are different than your nervous cells. Does that make sense? Did I explain that well? If you don't get it, raise your hand. Don't let me go. Okay. So a group of cells together that perform very similar tasks would form a tissue. Very good. Right? And that's all it is. A tissue is a group of cells that perform similar functions, similar tasks. Right? Okay? So a group of tissues, by the way, there are 4 different tissues. Right? If you put more than one tissue together, what do you form? An organ. Very good. You know it, just shout it out. An organ, right? Most organs in the human body have all 4 tissues. Right? Can anybody name all 4? You need to know that today, I'm just asking. Epithelial, connective, muscular, and nervous. A group of organs that perform some type of task in conjunction with each other form a organ system. Very good. Right? My favorite example of an organ system is your digestive system. Your digestive system has a long list of different tissues and different organs that together are able to perform one task, which is ingest food, break it down, and then excrete what the body doesn't want to. Right? And each organ in your digestive system has its own job. One of the things I talk to my team all the time is how I enjoy football. Not for that reason. I like football because I feel like football is the ultimate team sport. Right? And tennis players by nature are selfish. It is an individual sport, I get it. We're selfish by nature. Me too. Because we're always constantly thinking about, this is what I need, this is what I need to work on, this is what I need to improve, right? I love football because football, everybody in the team has one job. right? Each lineman has one assignment. The quarterback he has his job. The wide receivers and the running back, each position has one specific job. And if you watch football on TV, most of the times when something happens in a play, right, and the play doesn't work, they can go and pinpoint this guy missed his assignment. And it's not for the blame pointing, right? Not pointing fingers, but you can always say, okay, this is the guy that missed his assignment. This is why the play did not work, right? So I like that about football. And to me, when we're talking about the relationship between organs and organ system is the same thing. Your digestive system, which starts in your mouth, teeth, chewing the food, and the saliva that starts digestion with some enzymes, right? And down your throat into your stomach. Then you have the small intestine, the large intestine, and each part of it, and then colon and anus in the end for extraction, right? So I just love it. And then a bunch of organ systems together form a organism, yes. Right? So we started with atom, which is the smallest possible unit. And we started combining things and we finished with an organism. Us. We are an organism. If you take a class that talks about ecosystem, then you can start talking about how different organisms together form an ecosystem, and then you can start going in the other direction and make it smaller again. So it's fun. Questions for me there? Okay, so we have established so far that we are an organism, right? Are we alive? How do you know?
We got cells.
Okay.
We're not dead. We breathe.
Oh, we're breathing. That makes us being alive?
Yes.
Anything else? How do we know we're living?
We have functions in our body that do different things.
Yes. So for us to be considered a living organism, right, we have to be able to perform a certain series of tasks. Breathing being one of them. So that's a great start. I wasn't picking on you. Right? Breathing is one. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to transport to this side of the board because now I have two boards. Right? Living organism. How do we know we're living? Abigail says, we breathe. Anything else that you can think?
We use energy.
Are there living things that don't breathe? But we do breathe, right? So there are some characteristics By the way, one thing you should know. Small words, I can talk and write at the same time. If the words get a little longer, I can't talk and write at the same time. So usually I go silent. The characteristics way too long. I have to think. The spelling, right? So we are living organisms, right? And there are some characteristics that define a living organism. More specifically, 9 of them. Sorry?
Oh, yeah. It's like homeostasis.
Maintaining homeostasis.
No, that's good. But there are 9 of them, so we'll...
Reproductive, reproduce.
5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Good. I'm gonna change colors. Everybody okay with that? I'm gonna use brown.
Thank you.
Much better. All right, so you guys said digestion? No,
Oh,
sorry.
digestion is that
Dang it,
one?
I gave you one.
I
All right,
was
all right,
gonna guess it.
I said
I
it.
was gonna say it anyway.
Digestion. What was the other one you said?
Breathing and making
Reproduction.
homeostasis.
Production. Right?
Yeah.
Circle tour.
You guys said also another thing about homeostasis.
Yes.
Anything else?
Metabolism.
Excretion.
Metabolism. Excretion.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you one more. Movement. Because this one is a little more tricky. Anything else? You're never going to get this one. Maintain boundaries. Kind of goes with what I was saying about cells being the fundamental unit. What else?
Did breathing go away?
Well, it's part of metabolism. Growth. Conductivity. And excitability. Right? So I'm going to maintain boundaries, metabolism, movement, digestion, growth, conductivity, reproduction, irritability, and excretion. Did I get all 9? I did, didn't I? All right, so digestion, right? The ability of us to ingest food, break it down, deliver it to the appropriate tissues, use it, take the byproduct of that usage and get it out, right? Digestion, reproduction, the ability to multiply. When we talk about reproduction, right, we can talk about an egg, sperm together form a life. But we can also talk about just healing the skin, right? When you cut your skin and it has to heal, it has to reproduce more cells. When we get to chapter 3, we'll talk about mitosis, for example, which is the creation of those cells, right? Metabolism. Metabolism is the sum of all chemical reactions that you have in your body, right? Sum total of all chemical processes occurring in the body is called metabolism. Metabolism can be further divided into 2 different ones. You have anabolic and catabolic. Anabolic means building. Anabolic steroids. Yeah, bro. Right? Everything that builds, anabolic. Catabolic is breaking down. You are constantly building and breaking things down. As we go through each organ system, we're going to talk about turnover. Right? Turnover is how your body builds new stuff and gets rid of old stuff. We replace every skin in our body every so often. We replace our bones every so often. We replace every little muscle fiber, the protein in it, right? Every so often. Your skin, I mean, you're shedding I don't want to give you wrong information, so don't hold me accountable. But we shed about 40 pounds of skin in a lifetime, right? It's just your skin rubbing against your clothing. You shed a little, they say that your mattress doubles in weight after, I don't know, 10 years or something because of all the stuff that is in there.
Yeah.
And sad. Movement, right? We also can kind of divide it into what's called locomotion, right? Ability for us to move from one place to another, right? But we also have the ability to move things inside the body. Your heart pumps between 65 and 80 times per minute if you're sitting just listening to some boring anatomy physiology teacher lecture, right? Almost falling asleep after practice. And that moves blood, which moves nutrients and oxygen. You have the ability to move air, right? So when we talk about movement, there's the movement that we talk about of us walking, running, hitting the tennis ball, but then there are movement inside of your body that takes place. Usually that requires the skeletal muscle, not skeletal muscle, the muscular system, I should say. Skeletal muscle will move the body, but moving content through your digestive system, peristalsis. Do we talk about digestion? We have talked about growth.
What's the second one for movement? There's locomotion, and what's the other one? Because there's no arrow.
Very good. Well, that would be just the movement of things. Movement. This black is even worse.
Yeah, it's pretty terrible, number one.
Right. That's awesome.
I have my own setup.
But I forgot.
Maintaining boundaries, right? We talked briefly about cells being the fundamental unit of living things. If you break down cells, basically life breaks down as well, right? But your body likes keeping things in compartments. Your blood travels in your cardiovascular system, right? Your brain is enclosed inside of the cranium, and it is surrounded by cerebral fluid. Your heart has its own compartment. Your cells have membranes that separates one cell from the other. So your body creates boundaries. Your skin creates a very important boundary, which is the exterior and the interior of your body. It protects you from bacteria and viruses. It is somewhat impermeable to water, which is kind of like a small little lie, because if you're in the swimming pool, after a while, the water will seep through. But when you're showering, it's not like the water hits your skin and goes into your body, right? The skin will protect that. You can walk in the rain and not melt. Thank you. But that was a good, that was a good joke. Growth. We grow. Abigail hasn't grown in a few years because she was this size when she was 9. Some people grow faster. Some grow,
There's me.
But we do grow in size, right? We do grow in size, right? We have the ability to grow. If you lift weights, your muscles get bigger. There's more deposit of proteins in there that makes them bigger, which cause them to be stronger. You have the ability to increase the number of cells. So you started as a one-cell organism, right? Ag plus one cell. And then you multiply 2 cells. And then you multiply again 4, 8, 16, 32. And eventually you look like Matthew. Right? So we grow not only in size, but we grow in matter. The amount of substance that is in us. Right? I, being 6 foot tall, 11 pounds, right? I have about 5.5 to 6 liters of blood in me. Rafa, my 7-year-old, he doesn't have that much blood. So with time, he had to expand on that too, right? Conductivity is the ability to send electrical signals. Chapter 3, we'll go a little bit into that, and then chapters 9, 10, 11, and 12, we go really deep into that because I love it. But your body creates electrical signals. That's how your body communicates. Your brain communicates with all other parts of your body through electrical signals, so there's conductivity. And then excitability is the ability for your body to be stimulated by external factors. You walk outside the building in January and it's 27 degrees, you feel cold. If it's raining, you feel the water heating. You're constantly being stimulated by your external environment. You get eyes that pick up light. I don't smell, but the people that do smell say you can smell things, you can taste things, right? So when you don't smell very well, your taste buds don't work as well either. So I've been known for drinking expired milk and not tasting it.
Oh my God.
But my wife, it tastes really well, so she'll tell me, how are you drinking this? I don't know. This is just fine by me. Again, another joke. You guys are not like
You
this.
can't smell?
Huh?
You can't smell?
Very well.
Hmm.
No. What did I miss? Oh, excretion. Sorry. It's the ability of your body to excrete things that it doesn't want. CO2 being one of them. Feces, urine, even sweat. Right? They all have a purpose in what they're getting rid of. So, we have established that we are made of different structures that combine to form an organism. And then we said we're not only an organism, we're living. And here is the reasons why we believe we're living. What would be the next logical question? How do we stay alive? Wouldn't that be a good one? How do we stay alive? What are the requirements? What are the survival needs that we need to live? What are some things that you need? We got 5 of them, so I'm going to help you.
Coach Stricker, we missed number 9 for characteristics of living organisms.
Digest, which one?
The number 9, like the definition and what that means.
Excretion?
Number
Excitability.
9.
No, we got that.
Excitability is the ability of your body. Do you want to go? Go.
Sorry,
Okay.
just stimulation by the external environment. Like he said, remember what he said, when you step outside in the cold, it's your face with the rain.
Your body has the ability to be stimulated by cold, heat, light, taste, smell. What else? Okay. Alright. What is the number one thing you need to survive?
Water.
The most important.
Energy.
Air.
Okay, air. What is in air that you need?
Oxygen.
Oxygen. Right? That is number 1. Right? You also said water. I'm going to put that on number 3. Well, actually, no. Ay, sorry. water. What else?
Nutrients.
Nutrients.
Sleep.
Hibernation.
Abigail said sleep. A core temperature. And atmospheric pressure. There's a reason why they go in this particular order. Because they go, you can live weeks without food. It's not pleasant, but you can.
21 days.
Right? You can live days without water. Try to go 10 minutes without oxygen and see what happens. Then you were raised up, right? So we need oxygen. Again, I'm giving a big umbrella overview, but oxygen is needed so that your body doesn't become too acidic. Right? Because when you eat food, that food is broken down into smaller components, carbohydrates, proteins, fats, minerals, vitamins, right? And then you use those things. You are what you eat. Ever heard that?
Yeah.
Right, because you literally, you eat protein and it becomes part of you, right? But some of that stuff is used for energy. And energy, so you get a bowl of pasta and you eat it, break it down, carbohydrates, you ingest, energy, blah, blah, blah. In the very end, the only thing left is an H plus. Well, a lot of H plus, but an H plus. Right, it's a hydrogen atom without the electron. Right? Oxygen will take that hydrogen and neutralize it. About 2 hydrogens for a half molecule of oxygen to create water. That's what oxygen, right? Oxygen is not, you don't need to breathe just for the sake of breathing. You need to bring in oxygen so that oxygen, right, will neutralize, because we're going to learn in chapter 2 the difference between an acid and a base. And if you allow all those hydrogen ions to accumulate in your body, it becomes too acidic. Chemical reactions cannot take place. If they cannot take place, you die. Right? Water, 75% of your body is made up of water. Right? Every cell in your body contains water. Your blood is about 55% water. Right? Every chemical reaction requires a solvent. Right? Water is that solvent in which all chemical reactions take place. It's called the universal solvent, right? But also, water is required for some secretions, saliva, for example, gastric juices, right? And excretions, urine, sweat. Sweat becomes very important here. So you need water. You need nutrients. You are what you eat. Carbohydrates give you energy. Proteins give you the structural unit. Fat allows you to have hormones. You guys are right on the peak of puberty. Your hormones are going crazy right now, right? Fats are a very good way for the body to store nutrients. Right, in fat cells. Core temperature, your body needs to be in a certain temperature because those chemical reactions need to take place in a certain amount of time. Now, there's a speed to which those chemical reactions have to take place, right? If your core temperature goes too high, you overheat and you start degrading proteins and enzymes, can't sustain life. If you go too low, the rate of those chemical reactions are slowed down to a degree you can't sustain life. Hypothermia and hyperthermia, right? So your body has to have the ability to maintain core temperature, which for us is about 97 degrees, right? Don't be afraid to say it. Even if you get it wrong, it's always better to say it, right? Otherwise, it's just a boring teacher lecturing you anatomy and physiology all day. And then atmospheric pressure, right? There's going to be the exchange of air from inside to outside, and that's done by changes in pressure, right? Your diaphragm contracts, increases the volume of your chest, decreases the pressure. Pressure inside is lower than pressure outside. Air comes in, right? Diaphragm relaxes, creates the dome, compresses everything. Pressure inside becomes bigger than outside. Air comes out. Active, passive. Right? It's a contraction, relaxation, and changes pressure. Air comes in and out. There's got to be a change in pressure, so your blood travels. Right? When your heart muscle contracts, it squeezes the contents inside the blood, increases the pressure goes up higher than the pressure outside of the heart, so the valves open, blood rushes out, it circulates the body, right? To about 120 millimeters of mercury, 120, right? And it comes down to the other side at about 0, so there's a gradient change in pressure. Me? Yeah? Okay. We're doing great. You guys. Any questions? Good. We might just finish the entire chapter 1 today.
Sorry, just did it all.
All right, so in order to keep all of this working, your body has to maintain certain levels of things inside a range, right? You know what that range is called? You guys already said that word in class. Homeostasis. Everybody loves that word, right? Homeostasis. You know how to spell it?
Yes.
Yes. Right? What is homeostasis?
Maintaining an
Stable.
internal
Equilibrium in the body?
Just like evenness.
Evenness? What did you say, Abigail?
maintaining an equal temperature in your body.
Right. So, homeostasis is not the same as equilibrium
Well, it's maintaining.
or equality. Or balance for that. Right? Homeostasis means a steady state. And steady state means no change. right? And then no change is accomplished, controlled by different forces or factors, right? And your body uses, can I raise this? Or should I go here?
You can just raise that one.
Right. Let's keep the reds on one side, right? Those forces, those factors are things that kind of control, right? But they all work through what's known as the set point, right? Everything in your body is controlled by the set point. So for example, I don't know about you, but this classroom is a little hot.
Yeah, do you want me to turn on the air?
It freezes up real
Got
quick.
you.
How do you do it?
It's cold here.
I just pressed on. About 74, is that good?
No.
Yeah.
There.
Okay, good, right? But
Right.
when we talk about, let's say, core temperature, right? Set point for the body is about 97 degrees, right? 98.6.
Right. Not working.
I hear something. Okay.
Yeah, it's coming, right? So what happens, I put percentages, didn't I?
Yeah.
Sorry,
Pretty hot.
97 degrees, give and take, right? Your house has the same set point on the thermostat, right? If you set the thermostat to 75 degrees and it's summer, right? And the air conditioning stops working, the temperature is going to slowly go up and eventually reach a temperature that the thermostat is going to trigger the air conditioning to turn on again. If it's winter and it's still 75 and the temperature goes down, you will reach a change in that temperature that will trigger the heater to go on and raise the temperature back to 75. Your body does the same thing, right? If your temperature, your core temperature starts going up, you start sweating, you start getting thirsty, you start taking the jacket off, right? If you're competing and you start getting overheated, you start feeling that feeling of being tired and low energy and exhaustion, right? Because your body's saying, we can't keep this up, right? So hydration is so important. If your temperature goes down, right? You start feeling cold, you start shivering. If you go skiing, then your toes go numb and you can't do it. And then you fall constantly. Am I the only one?
I've never
been
seen snow.
What's snowboarding?
I've never seen snow.
I don't do
I
that
just think you're
anymore.
really good at fire.
No, I don't do that. I'm a skier
I
now,
don't like it.
right? But you start shivering. When you shiver, that your musculature, your skeletal muscle starts to contract very fast to raise the temperature inside, right? Your body will shunt all the blood towards your core. You start feeling your hands and toes numb, right? You're beating cold tournaments where you're standing there waiting for the last guy to play the last stupid third set tiebreaker and you can't feel your toes. You can feel your nose, your ears, and please win the last point. Go in there, right?
Yeah.
So there's the set point. But the important thing to understand about homeostasis is that it doesn't mean it's equal. It doesn't mean it's the same on both sides, right? For example, your cell, right? If this is the plasma membrane of a cell, your cell will leave things outside and keep things inside, and their balance is not even close, right? But it remains in homeostasis, meaning it's a steady state, it's unchanging, but doesn't mean it's balanced, right? So when we talk about the set point, you have, wrong button there, right? You have three portions of it. You have a receptor, you have a control center. And an effector. The receptor is what gets stimulated. Right? In the air conditioning, that would be the thermostat. Right? Your receptor sends a signal to the control center that will read it. Usually that might be your brain, probably. Right? And the control center will then decide on an appropriate response and then send a signal to the effector, which is whoever performs the action. Couple of good examples, right? Put your hand in a hot stove and immediately your hand comes off, right? But you don't feel the heat until the hand is off the stove. Have you noticed that?
I think you.
Because it's a reflex. We'll talk about that, right? But it's temperature receptors on your hand that feel the heat, send the message to the brain saying it's burning, get your hand out of there. The response says muscles in the arm move, and then you pull your hand out. There are two types of, so the control center, when it receives a stimulus and sends a response, right, that's called a feedback, right? And there are two types of feedback. There's a negative feedback, and then a positive feedback. Any guesses on which one is which?
Burning your hand is not good.
Hmm?
I said burning your hand is
No, it's not good. No, what I mean is,
Burn your hand is negative.
no.
well, a negative feedback will always bring things closer to the set point. Right? So again, core temperature goes up. I start sweating to bring core temperature down back towards the set point. Right? If I eat, so if this is a little graph here, if I eat, this is blood glucose, right? I eat and it goes up. Right after that comes insulin and goes up again, bringing blood glucose back to the set point, right? So a negative feedback brings everything closer to the set point. A positive feedback, on the other hand, once it starts, it keeps going, right? Up to a certain level, obviously, right? For example, the one I like the most, itching, bug bites, right? The more you itch, the more itchy it gets. And then you keep scratching and it just keeps on getting itchy until you rub the skin off and it becomes a wound. Then the negative feedback comes in and says, maybe we don't want to scratch the skin off our leg entirely. right? But you notice how you get bite by a mosquito and you scratch it, itches, and then you feel the urge to itch again and you do it, and it just keeps on getting worse. The other one is blood clotting. If you cut, starts as soon as one platelet starts attaching to the cut, another one and another one and another one until bleeding stops, right? Once bleeding stops, then the whole process of clotting stops because now you don't have the positive feedback anymore. Make sense?
Is it trying to get it closer to this positive feedback, still trying to get things closer?
Not
to the
necessarily.
side?
Not necessarily. Just like I said, once you get away from the set point, it keeps going until another process kicks in, right? Like the pain of scratching the skin off your leg. I don't think anybody does that, but maybe. So if we know that, then it becomes very clear that any disease is some level of a disruption to homeostasis. Right, so disease can be classified as a homeostatic imbalance. I'll write it down. Disease is a homeostatic imbalance. A lot of information. You guys don't ask a lot of questions. This is going to be fun. Because I just keep going. I'm like a snowball. I'm a snowball. Yes! All right. I am positive feedback. Very good. Did you hear that, Jacqueline? I'm positive feedback. I just keep going. It's funny. All right, so we're going to take a little turn and kind of change topics a little bit, right? We talked about what makes us, how we build our bodies, what makes us living, what requirements, right? How we maintain those processes going. Now we're going to talk about a little more anatomical related, right? And we're going to talk about directional terms, not to be confused with directionals. Please no. Directional terms, right? So I usually, right around this point, I like to step up, like take a little detour and tell a story that, you know, maybe you don't realize, but some time ago, there were no cell phones. No, actually, there were no phones.
What?
Yes. And people, there were no computers. Technology was very primitive. So people actually had to write stuff on paper and send it in the mail to someone else. They had to open that envelope and read what was in there. Right? So a long time ago, when anatomy and physiology, the field of biology, started to split, right? Because biology is the study of
Living things.
life, right? But you can say life is everything, plants, animals, right? So eventually those fields start getting a little more specific, a little more specialized. And eventually we got to a point where human biology became one thing. So in order for those scientists to communicate with each other, they needed to find a common language so that when you say things, it makes sense, right? So some terms were created for that. For example, when we talk about anatomical position, right? This is what we're talking about. It's someone standing with palms out, so the thumbs are pointing out. This is anatomical position. Yeah? Right. So from here, everything else is described. So I'm going to give you a bunch of terms. For example, anterior or ventral, posterior or dorsal. You want me to write it down?
No.
Okay, just making sure. So anterior is everything that is towards the front. And posterior is everything that is towards the back. Right? So dorsal, the way I like to think about this is, the dorsal fin of a shark or a whale toward the back, right? If you're looking at ventral, more to do with the head and face. So, for example, if I am describing the heart is posterior to the rib cage, right? Because the heart sits right behind your chest bone. Make sense? My ears are posterior to my eyes. My nose is anterior to my eyes. Yeah? Good. Then you have superior and inferior. Superior means upwards, above. Inferior means below. My head is superior to my shoulders. My chest cavity is superior to my abdominal cavity. Right? My knee is superior to my ankles. And you can just flip those for inferior. My jaw is inferior to my maxilla. Mandible, maxilla. You have medial and lateral. Right? So medial means towards the middle. Lateral, away from the middle line. So if I'm standing like this, right? Then I can say that my shoulders are lateral to my chest bone. My eyes are lateral to my nose, or the bridge of my nose. Away from the middle. Medial towards the middle.
So the stomach would be inferior to the lungs?
Yes.
They really use it.
Your stomach is also inferior to your heart. Because your heart is right here and your stomach will go right around there. Yes. And then you have proximal and distal. So is that time? It is time, isn't it? Okay, let me finish this. Just two more words. Proximal and distal. Proximal is towards the center, but it has to do a little more with the limbs, right? So proximal is closer, so my elbow is proximal to my wrist. My femur is proximal to my tibia. My toes are distal to my heel, because it's farther from the thoracic cave or the Yeah, and then superficial and deep. Superficial is towards the outside. The most superficial organ we have is the skin. Everything inside the skin becomes deep, right? So if we're describing depth, my heart is deep to the skin. My kidneys are deep to the spinal cord. Yes? Okay, it's a good place to stop. Okay, so take the books with you. Next class is on Wednesday. You got 3 days of tournaments. And then Tuesday and Wednesday. So you got to read chapter 1 of this book. And send me the summary when you're ready. You can do that today if you want to, or you can do that tomorrow or Wednesday. Before class on Wednesday, 10:30 in the morning, right? And then I am going to work on creating some type of deadlines for this.
So this book, do we read chapter 2 or finish chapter 1?
Just do chapter 1. Since you guys have a big tournament, I still have some stuff to go over. But if you have time and you want to do chapter 2, you can, because probably next Wednesday we'll start chapter 2. I know. It's so much fun.
And probably send you the notes, even like the notes we took, or like the summary, the notes we took in class and after class.
I don't need the notes that you took today.
Okay,
That's yours.
pretty much your notes, or your notes different than these ones?
Oh, they're different.
But for a summary, do you want like an essay format or like some like bullet?
Bullet points fine.
Okay.
Whatever you're gonna use to study.
Okay.
And don't forget to send me a text, so I have your phone number. I'll create a.
We, like, am I good with that, or should I still send you a text?
What?
I should.
I have your phone
Okay. Honestly, I don't know. I might.
I don't know.
I don't know if I have yours
You're my
for a second.
Jason.
How'd it go, guys?
This year's gonna be a